Hi, I'm Tanya Tyree, and I'm happy to be presenting this live Facebook Live 2020 June Rittenhouse Square Fine Art Show. Since the show was canceled, they decided to bring you guys to our home or our studios. My studio is actually in the garage and in the basement, so I have taken over lots of area, and as you can see, I also have artwork all over the house, so I kind of have taken over the house with my clay sculpture. I've been doing the Rittenhouse Square Fine Art Show for about 13 years. It's one of my best shows of the year. It's my favorite show to do, or one of my favorite shows to do. The quality is amazing, and I'm always just really honored to be a participant in the show. Today what I'd like to do first off is I'm going to walk you around my living room area, my dining area where I have sculptures on display in my house. I thought I would do that rather than set up a display outside like you normally see. Normally I'm in booth 38, which is right on the corner of Walnut and Rittenhouse, and right across from the Rittenhouse Square Hotel. Anyway, here you are in my home, and let's look at some sculptures. So this sculpture right here is called Corinne. This is one of my favorite sculptures. I consider her a really special piece because there's a lot of time and energy that went into it. This piece was built with coils. My sculptures are all hollow on the inside when I build them because clay can't be solid. This couldn't be some big solid mass that would get fired in the kiln. It would explode. So what you have to do is you have to either make it solid, and then some people actually cut them in half and hollow them out, or build them. And inside there are armatures that keep everything held together. So it isn't just, nothing going on in there. It's just that you don't have this big, heavy, solid mass. So something like this might look like it would be extremely heavy, but she actually isn't. The bases are heavy. All of my sculptures are made with bases that they come off and on, so you kind of lift her up and slide her on there. As I'm turning her around, you can see how cool the design of this one looks as she's kind of contorting. That's something that I love about three-dimensional art, is that it looks different from every point of view. It should be interesting from every point of view, not just from the front. So, you really can enjoy displaying her in all kinds of ways. So, this sculpture is hand-built from clay. After I do that, I do all the drawings and textures in the surface. I do a lot of scratching, which you're going to see later on how I build a piece, because I'm going to make basically something kind of a smaller version of this one. Not quite as big, not the same shape, but similar in form a little bit. She is more of my robust, voluptuous, and I love these because I have more space to draw on. Then they are hand painted with underglazes. I use underglazes. And then I use some oxide washes, and they go in the kiln. They're fired first to get hard, and then they get fired with the glaze on. So this surface is fired on. They can be in direct sunlight, but it is nice for you to get to see me presenting it because you get a nice sense of scale. Scale is, how large it is, how much space it takes up, and how much space it would take up in your room. The great thing about a sculpture, too, is if you want to move it, I could easily pick this up and move it over here into the dining room. Or let's say you're having a party and the grandkids are coming over and you're not so happy about having your favorite sculpture. It's not so difficult to put some pieces away when you need to. And it's good exercise, so we're on lockdown and can't go to gyms, you can just pick up and move your sculptures around, right? Let's look down here. This is another piece. This is on display on one of Scott's. Scott is my cameraman today, and he's doing a fantastic job. This is Fool for Love, and I really love creating that piece because she's got, a nice big sized face, so I can really get in there and have fun carving and building and creating her. She's got a lot of cool details. There's a little fish here, so there's a lot of interesting drawings. Pretty lips. I always love making these pretty lips. A lot of people ask me what my inspiration is. We can look up here at Birdie. I'm really inspired by a lot of painters and a lot of sculptors and a lot of different styles of art, like African art, contemporary artists like Picasso, Matisse, Modigliani, Marc Chagall, a lot of his symbols and the symbolic nature. This piece I called her Birdie. She looks like a sandpiper to me. She's got these nice long legs and the shape of her look like a bird. Obviously, my work is abstract, and later on today, if you have any questions, Scott and I are going to do our best to look into the comments and see if we can answer any of those questions in the last 10 minutes. And I also wanted to mention that I do have a promo code for my website, TanyaTyree.com or TanyaTyree.art this weekend. And I mentioned that to a bunch of people that I emailed out to, that if you put in all caps, buy art, all caps, no space, buy art, you get 10% off all weekend long on my website. And a lot of stuff is already on sale, so make sure you check that out. All right, let's come over here. And displayed on another one of Scott's speakers is Poppy. Poppy's a nice little small piece. She's available. And she has these sweet little red poppies going down. If you turn her around, they're also down her back. And you really can't tell which side is the front or back of this design sculpture. She has a little bluebird of happiness on her. And that piece, that bluebird of happiness flew into my artwork when I did a sculpture based on my grandfather. My grandfather used to wake me up every morning singing songs, you know, when I'd stay with him and visit them. And they lived in the mountains, and he was just a very happy man. And he sang zippity-doo-dah, zippity-yay, Mr. Bluebird on my shoulder. So I made a sculpture based on that, and it kind of touches my heart. So I like including that. She has a really pretty face too, Scott. You want to show her? Yeah. Attention to detail. I really love doing the faces. I've always loved drawing faces. The block is the heavy element, so this is really what's keeping her from going anywhere. Nice and bottom weighted, nice and stable. So what I'd like to show you now is a wall piece. This is a wall piece called Sail Away. The wall pieces are hollow in the back, so it's very lightweight. Don't want to run out of time. Are we at 20 minutes left?
I think it's only 5.
It's okay. We're trying to make sure that we can keep on schedule. And so if you're watching, Scott just hung up, so pulled out this thing that said 20, and I was like, I've been talking for 20 minutes. He says maybe it's more like 5. Anyway, so I can not freak out that it's 20 minutes past 2 already. Where's my life going? All right, so this wall piece is a great piece to, kind of wall pieces like this are great to put in, small areas. Or right here I have it next to Rebecca Jones. She is also a Rittenhouse artist. Not sure if she's participating this June, but she probably is. I should have looked that up. So I like the way that the colors, and you can see why I probably love her work and see the connection between the two. I do a lot of things like draw homes. This is something that's very much connected to Marc Chagall. Marc Chagall did a lot of things with symbols like the houses and the hills, and you can build a story of the boat, and she's just smiling and enjoying the radiance there. So that's a nice piece there. Let's go over here. Oh, let's look down here. This piece isn't finished yet, but I thought I would bring it up because I don't have any finished sculptures in this size on my website. But if you go to my website, I have one that is a similar shape. A lot of people think this looks like a little girl in a boat. I kind of designed it thinking about somebody sitting with their legs crossed, like these are her knees, and it's just, all of my sculptures are kind of these abstract ideas of the female figure. And what's so cool is often I'll get different people will tell me, children are great, they always see all kinds of cool stuff, and they'll be like, oh wow, she looks like she's a teacher, or she looks like she's a, and I'm like, oh really, where do you see that? And that's fun. It's got drawings in it. This one is gonna have a sailboat, a bird, a ladder, and you can see my symbols, and she will have probably a little bluebird on her shoulder, but it hasn't been put in the kiln at all, so it's very fragile in this stage. It'll go in the kiln, get fired, and I will and I will glaze it with underglazes and oxides, and then put it back in the kiln, and hopefully I'll get it on my website for you really soon. So she looks great on this cocktail table size, that piece, or she would be nice on, you know, maybe that table, like a dining table. Over here I have a couple other pieces. These are just displayed next to my sofa, and I think that's a great place to put a sculpture. As I sit here, hold my ceramic mug that I love. You can tell I like clay, right? I didn't make the mug. I don't make anything functional. So this sculpture is, she has arms. She doesn't. A lot of people sometimes don't even notice the difference between the two. Started off, I always really simplified them. Their idea of the robe figure, kind of like the Gustav Klimt painting, like the woman wrapped up in a robe and she's looking up to, you know, is she looking up at the sky? Is she looking up to her love? Is she enjoying the sun on her face? That was the idea when I created these sculptures, and I find, and at some point I decided I wanted to have them holding a vase, so in order to do that she needed arms. So I make some sculptures with arms and little details for the hands, and I really like the blue and the red pop with that, and these two look actually really nice together. And you can kind of get a sense of scale of these two here. And over here on the wall I have this nice red dress sculpture on the wall, similar to the other one, but in that nice simplified design, and she does have the arms, and she's on my website as well. She's hollow in the back. She's actually really big. Wait, let me put this down. I've enjoyed having my sculptures all over my home during this time, but I would much rather be coming to Philadelphia to show everything off to you guys. This is where it's signed. This is how it hangs. They're pretty light. And thank you, Scott. I just have her hanging here in a space where I couldn't fit, you know, a big painting. And it's nice to have a piece of art there. The lighting is really nice. There happens to be a light that shines down right there, so that's a good thing. All right, last sculpture. No, there's two more. All right, here is Wish Upon a Star. She's hanging out in the corner here next to the window.
Get a little shadow.
And also,
it's a little shadow back there.
you got a little shadow. You can get that in there.
Yeah.
Okay, Wish Upon a Star is definitely an interesting piece with the abstraction, with the color of her arms, and then she's got kind of like, I thought of it to be like a world, a star, and a little blue bird on top. But the cool thing I think about her is that when I painted her and glazed her, I was using kind of a green that I'll add a little more yellow to make it lighter. Sometimes I add a little bit of the white to it to make it fade, and then I'm also growing from one color to another, so it's blended, and that's when I get to use my painting skills. I went to Virginia Commonwealth University and studied fine art there and got a bachelor's degree in art education, but my major was in, or my minor was in painting. As far as what I did, I fell in love with clay really after school, or after being in college. I did take some college classes with clay, but I think my clay sculptures are really different because of my drawing, really interested in drawing and doing line work and painting background, which is different than a lot of people. So, and I taught for 6 years. Here we have a John Maurer painting, one of my best friends and good friends. I think he's out there watching me right now. So go to his new website, John Maurer Art. It might be .art, but check that out. John Maurer paintings. He's got some. No, let's come back over here because I wanted to point out that I have a Jennifer Gardner piece as well in my home. She is a Rittenhouse artist. And if you can see my puppy on the sofa here while we do this, he's sleeping. Sunny Blue is 12 years old, so he sleeps a lot. Let's look at this other John Maurer painting, B. There is landscape. So John does landscapes and he does abstracts, and he's one of the featured artists for the show. So let's keep going over here. As you can see, I have a lot of clay work in my home, but these two sculptures are, boy, I think I didn't even, I need to put them online. They will go online. I'm going to try to shoot them today. I photographed all the pieces that are on my website after all my art shows were canceled. So I took advantage to open up my store, and that's why they're all the sculptures are out here, because I had to bring them all into my studio and shoot them. This is Unity Couple. This is this beautiful girl here. She has all the spirals on her, and he is her center. That's how I see it. So she really looks like she's full of energy. She's this dancing queen, full of energy. And they really are yin and yang. If you look at the shape of her, her small shoulders go down to her wide dress at the bottom. And then he has the wide shoulders that go down to the small. If you were to take them and flip them, they're kind of yin and yang as well. So that was another name I thought. But anyway, they are both finished in the round. So you can really display them either way. As I was telling Scott yesterday, when if we put them like this, they're having a little, they don't agree with each other right now, so they're not getting along. All right, let's get on to the basement and start making some sculptures. What we're going to have to do to go down to my studio is we're going to cover it up so you don't go jarring and jumbling. Oh yeah, before we do that, I almost forgot. I have Teresa Haig's work here too. I don't know if she's still doing little pieces, but I love it. And I look at it every day. Art brings me a lot of happiness, and having it in your home really, to me, I think makes the difference between having a house and a home, personally. Just saying. So let's go downstairs. Scott, you're going to cover that up so that we don't jump. Don't leave. We're just going to take a little stroll, and we're going down to make some sculptures. And you see how it all starts. I don't think I mentioned that I live in Baltimore City, so we have been on lockdown for almost 3 months. Crazy. I mean, seriously, like, they're taking it serious here. People go for a walk in the streets and, all right, I'm not going to do that now. So, anyway, this is where I find a lot of happiness, is just being down here, and this is where I find peace and love in creating. I usually have music going. That's great, we have a friend. And, you know, I can just go into this world of creating art. So what we have here is a sculpture that I'm going to be putting together for you so you can see. I'm going to start from the top, but this basically is like the hips of a woman. Lordy, where did this fly come from? We need a fly swatter. We need a third person. Can you see this, Scott? Don't, let's just ignore it. It'll go away. Go away. This is fun. Maybe it's some energy. Somebody, can you see me?
Yes.
Yes, you can. Okay, so this is like the hips of a woman. Why do I do women instead of men? Well, you saw I did a man sculpture. You know, women kind of emit this energy of love, and they're the home takers, and they're, you know, they're beautiful, they bring beauty, and I guess that's what I want my sculptures to reflect, is love and happiness and joy, beauty, peace, tranquility, all the things that we want to have. I've made all of these elements from slabs of clay. I'm going to be going through, I'm going to probably pop, I kind of push my finger in, and I can pop out and give her the idea of breast. Hope you can handle me saying that word. I think so, because that's what they are, right? So the idea of that, and then I'll be looking at it, and I'll eventually, I'm going to score and slip and attach this onto here, which I'm going to do today while you're watching. I'm going to close this up, I'm going to open up a hole, And this face has already been sculpted, and I'm going to put that together, and I'm going to decide which way I want it to be while we're doing this. But let me first show you how I even got from here. Okay? We're doing. Can you see any comments, Scott? Anything come up when you're doing that?
Everybody just loving it, and positive comments and hearts
Aw, that's
that
so
I've seen.
sweet. I have a lot of family and friends. I have been doing a lot of advertising for this, and it's pretty special. So we're making history. All right, so if we come over here, this is where I work with clay and roll it out and make slabs. I have a bag of clay. Whoop. I've already cut it, but basically what you do is you take these are wire cutters, and I'm gonna slide it through. Maybe what I'll do is, clay's pretty sticky. Maybe I didn't cut this. Yes, I did. Okay, I'm gonna cut it again anyway. So, you're just gonna slide this through, and then that lets go. Okay, I've got a nice hunk of clay there. I'll fight with this on another day. Take this bag of clay, drop it down. Clay dries out, so you gotta keep it in plastic so that it doesn't dry out. So this is some nice soft clay. The new clay body that I'm using is pretty soft. I'm just gonna pound it out into a basic kind of shape that I want. I get my clay from Baltimore Clay Company, but you can order clay from High Water and they'll ship it to you, or different places. And really, the best clay is, everybody likes something different. This is not porcelain. This is a stoneware clay, which means that it's you know, I can make nice big sculptures, and when they're fired to cone 6, which my sculptures are, which is pretty high, they're hard like stone. And I like that because I used to do raccoon firings, and they were very much more fragile, easier to break. These new sculptures can even be outside on display. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to roll this out into a slab. It's called a slab, which is a long, flat piece of clay. Okay, we're doing good. And you're just going to kind of lift it up. You can also slap it down, lift it, and slap it down, lift it, and slap it down. So if you see here, I have these 2 sticks. These 2 sticks are, they're going to make sure that I don't make it too thin. They're like the guide. So I'm rolling it and making sure that I don't go, and that's how I do it. Everybody does everything different. I don't use a slab roller because I like to control the shape, and I usually can make something and not lose a lot of, not have a lot of extras that I have to, you know, recycle. Clay can be recycled, so I can take the clay and ball it back up again if I mess it up, put it through a pug mill, or just hand wedge it. And right now, as you can see, it's getting more and more even. This is how I start my wall pieces. This is how I start my long, elongated sculptures. If I want to get it wider, and I want to have a little more hips, go like that. And lifting it up. All right, so the other thing that I did, which is pretty fun, is, you know, I'm always coming up with different ways I can do the background surface, the background texture. This is a piece of foam that I got at Michael's, I believe, or something, and I drew on the foam kind of a pattern, and then I cut it out with an X-Acto knife, and this is how I get this texture into the clay. So this is a cool kind of idea. I can create any kind of pattern, any kind of drawings that I want, and this is usually the background texture. You'll see when this comes out. Oops, can you let me get something? Let me grab a, this is just a little scraper. If you go into a clay company, this little tool has a whole bunch of little prickles on the end. This is what I use to score and slip to put things together. And I'll also use it to just scratch into the clay. Clay tools are not, you know, often homemade things are great, things that you find. I'm always stealing things from my kitchen. I'm going, that'll be great. And Scott's like, where did this thing go? And I'm like, and he knows where it went. He just doesn't want to throw me under the bus because he knows I'm taking stuff down to the studio, just sticking the clay to make cool stuff with. So, see, I'm doing that. I'm gonna scratch it and create this cool texture. And then I'm gonna have it to be able to build with in the future. It's trying to, and you know, I might, when I'm finishing, I might end up doing drawings over top of this. I might scrape some away and put another texture on top. It really is it's a lot about designing, and then it's also improvisational. What I'm doing and how I do it. Sometimes I'm just going with the flow and having fun. And that's what a lot of this is about, really, is having fun and enjoying creating, being a creative person, not a destructive person, and bringing things that are beautiful and interesting into the world. And it's great when other people appreciate it, and I consider myself very lucky that I have been doing this full time now for 20 years. This is my 20th year. And I can kind of pick it up and move it. All right, so what we're gonna do now, this slab, we're gonna take it over here. And you can see how floppy this is. This is wet clay. It's really hard to work with really wet clay. Thank you. I can repeat my promo code of buy art in case some people weren't here before. I promised that I would say it a couple of times.
You have 23 people watching.
All caps, buy art. All right. We've got some action going on in here. So this is really floppy. Obviously, it's very different than this, right? So what you have to do to get from here to here, because this was made basically from something like that, is it has to dry. And what we want to do to get it to dry is either just let it sit there and hang out, or we can hit it with a blow dryer. A blow dryer works pretty well. But what I tend to do, like with making this piece here, is I use forms like this noodle, this pool noodle. This is a great clay tool. Is a pool noodle. I don't have a swimming pool. I wish I did, but I do have a noodle. It's a little noodle. I think it's a noodle. It might be actually something else, but it looks like a noodle. So anyway, this noodle gets used all the time. That, and also over here, I have this tube, and that's what I use to, it's what I use to drape. It's called draping, when you kind of fold it over, and then you let it kind of sit. Come back here. So now I'm going to let it drape. And this piece is draped over, and so when it stiffens, I can start building with it. But I can do a little bit here. I'm going to kind of tuck these under. Let's see, this will probably turn into a wall piece. I'm going to tuck this under. I'm going to sweep this in. Squeeze this in. Now with my wall pieces, sometimes people, well, should have probably pointed it out, but sometimes my wall pieces kind of, well, they have a face that's attached here. And what I'll do is I'll go in and get rid of some of this drawing and texture. I'm just going to smooth it with my fingers. Another great tool of a clay artist is their fingers. And as I do this, I'm going to kind of decide, well, this looks like it'll probably be her bottom. This looks like her hip area. I might want to give her some nice hips to kind of shape that out. This area right here, sometimes I'll do scratch, 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 and then have a little face here. So I'm going to show you. Scott, could you come around this way and go kind of over my shoulder a little bit? Yeah. That's a good way. In order to get the face, I'll kind of just start with like this. Go like this. And I'll start sculpting up the face on my wall pieces. And basically it's taking time. I can add an extra coil here if I wanted more. But I think, if I need more room for her hair. But you get the basic idea. But see, when I start doing these kinds of things, I have to put on my reading glasses because I want it to look nice. And so here's her face. I'm going to go in and squish in her nose. I do this little element, and then I kind of make their little lips. Start off like this. This is going to be a rough, beginning, because it's going to have to dry a little while, and then I'll go back and give more detail. Sometimes, people ask me, how long does it take you to make a piece? That's probably one of the biggest questions you get as an artist, is how long does it take you to make something? And one of my best answers that I've come up with is, because there really isn't a specific time for anything, even a piece that's of the same size. Sometimes it can take more and sometimes it takes less time. It kind of depends on how I'm feeling, How are we doing, Scott?
You're doing well.
Okay. Looks like we are about 30 minutes, so he was giving me a heads up. So as you see, I'm just shaping. And then this part is going to kind of come around. I'm going to go in here. I'm going to come down here. It's like the pressure's on right when you're doing it live. Don't mess up, T. And this will be maybe part of her hair here. And let's see how that's going to happen. And this is going to tuck around. I'll end up giving her... I usually close her eyes. Why do I close her eyes? I close her eyes because I want them to appear like they're dreaming. They're in a... appear like they're dreaming. They are maybe enjoying the sun on their face, that sort of thing. Somebody asked for that, Scott?
No.
No. I hope people can hear me. I know the microphone's on the other side, but my mouth is right almost under here. So, with the sculpting, I'm going to go in, and I think you're getting a good idea of how I do that. So, it really does need to dry a little bit more before, and I kind of am pushing out from, like I'm using this finger, I'm pushing out and pushing in, and that's how I build my sculptures that are hollow. And then here I can kind of push this way, like this down here. And this part right here is going to end up coming to be her neck. It's going to get closed off, so I'm going to kind of get rid of this. Okay, so that's how my clay sculptures get started. Let's go back to my little scratchy tool. Because I do a lot of, I think I'll do a lot of scratching. This area might be her torso. And anybody that's watching, oh, I just squished her nose. Look what I did. What happens when you're, come here. Okay. Go back there. All right, so as you can see, that needs a lot more work, but then I'll end up coming through, pulling this tube out, and then I'll be able to do more of making it 3D and finished. Okay, so let's come back over here to this piece that I'm going to build. I started it yesterday or the day before because it didn't really work in the studio much. Yesterday we were playing around with other things, giving this a little bit of texture here. This part that's going to fit on here was made with slabs, just like this. And I wrapped it around a piece. And then I'm slowly, and I kind of want to show you, it might be, okay, do you like it from that view as opposed to from here, this view, or what do you think, Scott?
We can try either.
Okay, I don't know.
I'm a
I
rookie
really kind
camera.
of want her shoulders to be a little bit smaller, so basically, what I'll do is pinch them up. I'm kind of squishing and bringing them together here. Raise them up. I'm bringing the clay and pushing it to go towards the middle here. And that's how I'm making her shoulders a little bit smaller. Okay. And then what I can do is I can cut it back down. So I'll go back and cut this off. Clay is a very forgiving material as opposed to stone carving. That was going on earlier today. I tried doing that, and I really love the additive method. This is an additive method of creating sculpture where you're building by adding rather than taking away. I'm just going and slipping that. And then this baby's going to go and you squish it together. And these are going to be her shoulders. I might give her arms, I'm not sure, I haven't decided yet. If I do, I can either add a coil and attach it, or sometimes I will make it part of the piece. But let's first go back to this part. So this is, just a basic clay knife, cutting knife. I have some ribs in here. These are called ribs for smoothing. They have different hardnesses. You definitely need water. This thing is really helpful with building too, because I can go in and kind of fill seams, make sure that that thing is attached really, really well, because we don't want it to have any air pockets. Clay can't have air pockets. If there are, it can crack, it can explode in the kiln. So that's an important thing to not have. And now that I've done that, I can start to take away a little bit more and start sculpting with this too. So let's go. What we're going to do is we're going to score and slip this area, just like we did for the by having just this thing in this water. I also have some buckets of slip. It's pretty thick. When I used to raku fire them, I had to really make sure that everything was put together well, or they would definitely break when they were being raku fired, which is a process of pulling them out of this hot kiln. Now, I still, I just really want things to be put together really well, so I make sure that I do this and score and slip it really carefully, and then I go back in and do more smoothing. Smooth the seams. So, as you can see, this piece is a little bit shorter of an area, and this is a little bit longer. And then this part is going to be squished on there, and I'm really going to just go down and squish it, and then I'm going to smooth it together. And these two will become permanently attached. I might leave a line there and make it look like it's not permanently attached, but it will be. There's going to be permanent attachment there too. I'm sorry. So I'm basically just pulling this clay, smoothing it in, and smoothing this piece together. This is how I build with hollow forms. I mentioned before that some people build with solid forms and then they hollow it out. And this is just the way that I like to create, and I guess it's just the way that my brain thinks. And there's also a sponge. So you can see I can go in here. And this is where this tool is great. It's just basically a little sponge on a stick. All of these are at the clay store, and go in, and I can press out and smooth it from the inside. So I'll go through and do all of that and resurface and make sure that it's great and that it's connected well on the inside. If this hole was a little bit bigger, I might be able to get my hands in, and I might decide to do that at some point. But as you can see here, this is. She's coming together well. And at that point, I'll probably decide, after I'm happy with how this is, that I want to maybe draw a line here. And sometimes I'll just kind of draw lines like this, or I might make some patterns. You know, I can do all kinds of things with this to finish the piece. I also might decide that I want to, and this usually comes a little bit later, give her arms, and when I'm giving them arms in a state like this, I literally would just kind of go in here, draw this down, and then start pinching and separating her arms around her chest. And this is arm here, and sometimes they'll be crossed. They're usually crossed. I guess I could probably add an extra arm and have it kind of go out this way. There's all kinds of things that I could do. Let's get her head on. Finish my sketchbook. I do a lot of sketches before I start work. All these sketches of big ideas that I want to create. I'm thinking of starting to play with making some animals. This looks like one of my nail sculptures. So yeah, I have a sketchbook full of pieces. How will they go together? How is this really tall? This piece ends up being, I think it's like 15 inches tall. How's it going to be put together on the inside? How's it going to stand up? How much weight do I need at the bottom? You know, all these things. This is problem solving. And how should I build it? How am I going to make these in separate sections? Do I want them to be put together after or before? Because some of the pieces cannot fit in my kiln, so I have to make them in separate sections and then put them together after they're done. Wow. All right, so let's get this head on. We got about 5 minutes, and maybe, Scott, do you see any questions? And actually,
Let me go over there.
you can show them. These are some pieces that are
Okay.
in the greenware state. You
Sneak
might just
past
zoom
it.
over it while I work on getting this head ready.
Yeah, all just positive, wonderful experience question or answers, positions. I haven't seen a question, but I haven't been staring at it. But you can see all Tanya's
If you
work
did
in
send in
order.
a question, I will try to go in and respond later if I can't figure out how to do that now. All right, B.
Okay.
Let's come over here and I can show how this head's going to go on here. So I have cut a hole in the top because this needs to be hollow and air needs to get to
To the side.
this piece. One trick is to use, you can use like paper straws, and you could put a paper straw through here, paper straw through there, and then you wouldn't have to worry. But I normally poke holes in the nose so that I know air can get out. You don't want to trap air if you do that when you're building with clay. Like if I didn't cut a hole here and I just put this on that was hollow, her head would blow off, and that wouldn't be very good. So thinking how I want to do this, maybe straight forward, maybe just a little bit forward. I usually go up, but I'm feeling like I want her to go forward. So I'm going to squish her down here, and I'm going to put her head on there. And that's how I build with forms.
I haven't gotten into how I do the colors, but I can show you something. But as you can see, I will smooth this. I will adjust it. I'll be working on this for many more hours to get her where I'm happy with her shape, her size, how she's done, how she's built. I can go back through and lay her back down here now. And I use these long poles that I was using to, you know, get the right thickness. And I can go through here, up through her head, and all the way through her neck to make sure that, and then that will get me so that I can build and smooth, and I can press from this way and build up and build the sculpture the way that I want it. It's like she definitely has a bigger right shoulder, so I'll be taking more away. So we're getting close to the end here, so let me pull this out. And you can see how she's coming along. She's coming along pretty well. She's going to be kind of a cool, smaller version of a bigger sculpture that I have, or that I have made in the past, kind of. Although she's different, she's got the arms. All right, so got.
Maybe 10 to 15 minutes left, I think.
No, we
No?
stop at 2:45.
Oh, well then we're right.
So that means we're pretty close to it.
I think we are.
So at the end, what I would point out to you is that all of these sculptures over here will be going online pretty soon. They're getting ready to go into the kiln. These are going to be bisque fired. And then I'm going to, you have to wait until they become bone dry before you can put them in the kiln. And you have to have a full kiln load. And this is about a full kiln load I have over here. This is an example of this kind of tall sculpture here. And then we're going to have one, how she was going to look at the end. This little girl's been hiding down here. So you kind of get a sense of how I create these. This will actually shrink down. I have to say goodbye. Thank you for staying in tune, and I will be looking to see if I can see the comments. I hope you had fun in my studio, and thank you for taking the time to spend with me. And I enjoy being a part of the Rittenhouse Square Fine Art Virtual Edition show during 2020. Take care. Bye-bye, everybody.